Billy the Liquor Guy here. The story you're about to hear, under too long, is the story of bombs, drugs, untaxed alcohol, terrorism, and the undercover agents who brought it all down. Thanks for being here. Episode 8. In this episode, the chaos escalates. From explosive parties and deadly confrontations to uncovering a sex trafficking ring, every move pulled me deeper into a world of violence and betrayal. With my cover at risk and enemies closing in, survival meant pushing limits I never thought I'd cross. Let's dive back into the story. Chapter 26. The party gets bigger. After the hype of the bomb, everyone wanted in. The FBI became a permanent fixture in our unit, as well as the Terrorism Task Force. Our new location, which was set in an air-conditioned warehouse in Marshalls Creek, Pennsylvania, required us to bring Pennsylvania State Police and the PA-BCI unit on as well. If the relocation was an issue, we didn't see it. Here we were, an hour and a half away from our original location, yet every customer followed us. They formed a sense of trust with us, knew our products, and built their own businesses off them. It was fair to say they would have followed us to Alaska if we'd asked. We had them in our back pocket. However, what we also had was a larger warehouse and a shitload of other agencies looking to work with us. Our weekly advertisement in the Arabic paper had brought in a surreal amount of additional clientele, which made enough work for everybody. Stanton had sat down with the Terrorism Task Force and the FBI and came up with an additional delivery scam that would allow the FBI and task force to see where people lived and worked. Using our new distant location as an excuse, we offered to drive product to people, and the bad guys bought right in. While the FBI pursued their weekly leads and the ATF explored the weapons that most of our criminals were arriving with, I dipped into Sunshine's return visits. Sunshine had promised to follow us the moment I told her about the bomb takedown that had happened at our warehouse. Within the first week, she arrived, her security intact, and checked out our new place. "This is much nicer than your last place," she said, walking around the lot. "You boys must be doing better than I thought." "Knock on wood," I said, tapping on the steel warehouse. Sunshine laughed. "You're still as crazy as ever, though." "I don't think a location can change that," I smiled. "I hope you boys have a good plan set up here. It's a bit far from your original location." "Doesn't seem to be a problem so far," I said. "We're booked for our first week, and we're starting to deliver since we'll be in and out of New York. You let me know if you want me to swing by." "You and your boys should come by," she smiled, leaning up against her car. "I've got a lot of pretty girls down there for you." "Well, there seems to be only one pretty girl I'm interested in right now." Sunshine beamed. "Hey," I said, leaning closer, "you think you can help me out with something?" "I think I can manage to help you out in several ways, if you're asking." Blood rushed to my cheeks. "I'm looking for a little coke," I whispered. "You think you could help me?" Sunshine stood back and looked at me. "You do coke?" "Occasionally," I replied. "The stress here has made me all wired. I can't keep up, and I don't want the guys to see me slowing down." Sunshine leaned in and fixed the collar of my shirt, letting her fingernails trace the skin of my neck. "Let me see what I can do," she said, standing so close that I could feel her breath on my neck. "Billy," Jeff yelled, sensing my situation, "help me grab some of these boxes." Grateful for the distraction, I thanked Sunshine for the help and busied myself with Jeff. Sunshine wasn't even out of the driveway before surveillance had the drug task force lined up and ready to go. One more agency in the loop. Chapter 27, Chin Lu. As with all our prior operations, this one began running operations within operations as well. While Sunshine had become the host of our prospective drug buy, a new guy in the scene would lead us in another new direction. Chin Lu was our first and only Chinese buyer. Unlike our Arabs or the new African group we acquired, Lu, as we called him, arrived at the detail in tailor-made suits, polished shoes, and dress shirts, which were always crisp. It was so out of character compared to our other customers that we automatically took an interest in him. Lu had an energetic personality. He arrived happy, with jet-set speed, and ready to pay for his merchandise and go. There was no dawdling or idle chit-chat. This guy was all business. Lu didn't assist and carry any of the product either. Instead, he slipped our guy's money to load everything into the trunk of his white BMW. While he waited, I noticed his inability to sit still. He'd readjust himself in his seat, drum the steering wheel, or wiggle his fingers, making me wonder if he was strung out on coke. And if so, did he have more to offer us than cigarette transactions? During his visits, I harassed him a little to gauge where he stood. Chin, you always dress so nice when you come to see us, I said, leaning into his open car window. I'm beginning to feel like you like us. No, I only love the casino. I have a date with her later. I show her my style. She shows me the winnings. After a few weeks, Lou began scheduling double deals. He'd arrive early in the morning, load his car, and then drive down to Chinatown and then return, which often pissed us off because he was our last and often late customer to load up again. During these deals, I always attempted to further the conversation. You're always running, I'd say. When do you relax? When I'm at the table, he'd say, referring to his love of blackjack, I'm late now. Where are you going anyway? I inquired. Atlantic City, he replied in horror, as if I were stupid to ask. No other place in the world compares. I'm there every night. I wondered if Lou's cigarettes hustle was a result of a gambling debt. Maybe he was in trouble, I thought. If he was in trouble, that could be my way in. So the following week, I decided to feel it out. Lou, you in trouble? I asked. Lou looked at me as if a skunk had just crossed his path. In trouble? In trouble with gambling or something. I'm just asking because I have some people who might be able to help you out. Lou looked around as if he were on hidden camera. You crazy, Billy, he said. You see my car, my clothes? I have no trouble. Trouble comes to me for help. If you're sure, I said aloofly. My help is here if you need it. No pride at stake. Lou laughed. You should come to me for help, not me to you. You're really funny. As long as you're okay, guy, I said, tapping his car. We watch out for our customers, that's all. Lou must have thought about my offer because the following week he arrived with a business proposal. I have something for you, he said during his evening pickup. It's a business deal. The words business deal are like flies to shit for undercovers. I sell tax stamps, Lou smiled. You want in? Tax stamps, I said, puzzled. Yeah, tax stamps. For the cigarettes. To make it look for real. I stared at him, scrambling for my move. You fucking idiots don't know tax stamps? They're on the side of the cigarettes you sell. Lou pulled a pack of Marlboro Lights from his pocket and pointed to a tiny marking on the side. You see this? This is tax stamp, he said, directing his finger to the gray marking. You get caught with cigarettes without this stamp and you could go to jail. It's illegal. I walked over to our supply and picked up a carton. Lo and behold, the little tax stamp was sealed on the side. We already have tax stamps, I showed Lou. What the fuck would we need yours for? You don't have to have them, he said. I make them for you. Lou, you're going to have to enlighten me here, I sighed, honestly confused. Why would I need you to make me tax stamps when I have tax stamps? For counterfeit, he replied, waving his hand in excitement. You sell people fake cigarettes and I sell you tax stamps. Nobody knows any different. Where the hell do I get fake cigarettes from? Oh, I have plenty of places I can take you. They come from all over. We have them in our warehouse. Lou, I interrupted him, if you have fake cigarettes in your warehouse, why the hell are you coming here every week? Fake cigarettes taste like shit. My guys want real smokes. But your other customers, you can trick them. I wrestled with the opportunity in front of me while the guy shut Lou's trunk, finished with his order. I've got to admit you got my interest, I said, rubbing my hands across the side of my face. Why don't you let me talk to my partners and get back to you next Thursday? Don't think too long, Lou replied as he stepped in his car. You waste money that way. Stan was all over Lou's proposal. Within 2 days, he had our crew shutting down our operation early Saturday afternoon for a scheduled debriefing at the Philip Morris plant in Richmond, Virginia, Sunday morning. It was another weekend on the job and away from my family. Needless to say, my wife and kids weren't happy, but the drive to go deeper helped me ignore their disappointments. After all, we were talking about meeting some of the pioneers of the tobacco industry. Any exhaustion I may have felt melted into the private driveway that held a sea of gentlemen waiting to greet us. I felt like royalty as they opened the car doors for us, excitedly shaking our hands and escorting us to their facility. After a few minutes of introductions and travel talk, the gentleman offered us cool glasses of iced tea topped with a splash of bourbon and gave us a brief tour of their property, explaining their history as we went along. It was amazing to hear the stories of some of the founders, see where the factory had expanded, and learn all about things both good and bad that had made them who they are today. The tour ended in the CEO's large conference room, which was filled with prestigious leather chairs, a 12-foot long hand-carved wooden table, and a feast of deli meats, breads, fresh fruit, salads, and tobacco smoked meats. We loaded our plates and tore into the delicacies, too profound for a bunch of sweaty warehouse workers, while their director of tax fraud passed out bound packets of information. Smoked prosciutto, wrapped around sweet slices of cantaloupe, unfold to the fight that large companies, such as Marlboro, had been up against for years. The fact that we happened to stumble upon it was a blessing in their eyes, and one they were proud to join forces to help us beat it. As much money as these companies were making, they struggled to keep up with the billion-dollar loss they've been facing the last 5 years, all because of pirated cigarettes. They established their own private team, who they hired to find and shut down the operations that were responsible for smuggling, housing, and selling these products. That team had located their production facilities, which were housed in China and South America, and determined the ports that allowed them into the United States. The problem was that the pirate organizations had become so good that it was nearly impossible for customs to tell the difference from the real products and the counterfeit. A tall, skinny gentleman in a black suit and navy tie placed the two products in front of us and asked us to choose the fake pack from the original. I was amazed at how identical they looked, and as hard as I tried, I couldn't spot the difference. The first thing Navy Tide showed us were the jagged points throughout the M in Marlboro. It was a signature the founders had made a point of noting when they labeled the brand. The counterfeit packs had straight lines in the M, which you needed special glasses to detect. Another way to determine the cigarette's authenticity was to open the pack and check the cellophane wrapping. Authentic brands held a cellophane that came off in one piece, whereas the counterfeit cellophane would break or fall apart when peeled. Again, for the untrained eye, you'd probably never notice or think twice. Of course, the third option was taste, which I took their word for since I've never been a smoker. Marlboro cigarettes were made with high-quality nicotine plants. The imposters were made with crap. Therefore, the moment a smoker held a cigarette up to his lips and took a drag, they experienced a horrendous mouthful of smoke. And if that smoker had knowingly purchased a pack of these cigarettes, the loyal buyer now became dismayed with Marlboro's product and began sampling other varieties. When it came to the tax stamps, there were various ways to detect their authenticity as well. The first involved a portable blue light, which navy ties shined on the stamps. True tax stamps were created on thick, matted paper that prevented light from shining through. So, if we could see the package behind the stamp, then the stamp was counterfeit. It was a great concept. However, Border Patrol didn't have the time or the manpower to stop trucks loaded with Marlboro cigarettes and shine a light across each stamp. Marlboro tried to create stamps with different intricacies every year to help weed out the fraudulent suppliers. But it was always just a matter of time before the forgers would adjust their stamps to resemble the new ones, and the process would begin again. "This shouldn't be our job, Billy," Navy Tie said, looking across the table at me. "But the ring is larger than any agency can seem to get a hold on. The Bureau has failed us for years, and we spent millions of dollars on our own accord to try to combat this situation." The rest of Navy Tie's team chimed in, sharing stories of past losses and unsuccessful undercover smuggling stings. You could tell they were frustrated and a bit apprehensive, which was understandable, but I assured them our agency would do everything possible to take down the guy we were working with. Dalton, the director of Marlboro's accounting department, had more bound booklets, which broke down the cost and loss of revenue that stamps caused for the state and tobacco companies. New York State had the highest tax stamp, and New York City, which held an additional tax stamp on top of the pre-existing state stamp, was through the roof. This put a prime target on the metropolitan area, exactly where Lou was located. Whether it was a mom or pop shop, a large corporation like Walmart, or a wholesaler, every place of business had to apply for a retail license and document each pack of cigarettes sold. It was then the state inspector's job to verify their records to help detect any loss in revenue. However, it didn't do anything for the thousands of bodegas and small shops which were selling pirated cigarettes. That's where the company needed us. They were hoping to add additional funds to bulk up on manpower so we could begin breaking down each and every one. As we departed late that afternoon with an understanding of what we needed to do, I was eager to jump into business with Lou and see where this new niche could take us. And when I turned to check in on the crew, I could see that every one of them was ready to. Chapter 28, Gift for Silver Fox. While the cases and operations were different than Operation Spirits, I stuck to the same mentality. Don't rush, don't show eagerness, and don't break routine. Therefore, we had to wait 4 days until Lou's Thursday appointment. Sunshine and her anticipated cocaine arrival got us through Tuesday. Hope this helps you, Silver Fox, she said, slipping an 8-ball into my hand while standing on her toes to kiss me on the cheek. Who's better than you, I said, studying what she brought me. This is definitely going to help. I've got something else I need to talk to you about, Sunshine said. It's serious, so I need you to focus. I turned to Sunshine and gave her my full attention. You've been doing business with a group of Africans, correct? How do you know about? Just listen, she hushed me, placing her finger on my lips. Those Africans are bad news. I caught them down the road getting a drink. Word is they're going to rob you. We'd been dealing with the Africans for only 2 weeks, and in that time, they'd already landed themselves their own internal investigation as they used counterfeit money to purchase their cigarettes. They're coming in long trench coats with shotguns underneath. They're looking for cash. I called Saeed over and checked on the day's itinerary. We were 2 hours away from their slotted time. Okay, I need you to get out of here, I said, pushing her towards her car. I can't work unless I know you're far away from any danger. Sunshine smiled at me, but as we approached her car door, her expression changed to concern. I'm nervous for you, she said. Do you have a gun? Anything to protect yourself? I'm not carrying right now, I shrugged, but I'll make do. Sunshine reached into her glove compartment and pulled out a 9mm semi-automatic revolver with a silver barrel and black handle. For your protection, she winked, handed the gun to me. Take it and be safe. Are you sure, I asked? I don't want to take your protection away. I have more. Don't worry about me. You need to focus on your guys and getting them properly equipped. Those little pistols they have aren't going to compare to what the Africans are coming with. I'll take the gun, I said. Now get out of here. I've got to get the guys prepared. I kissed Sunshine on her forehead and stood in place as she drove off, thinking about the can of worms she just opened up for herself. The moment she was out of sight, I scrambled towards the guys. We had some big shit to get ready in a little amount of time. Rather than shooting the Africans on sight, the guys agreed to the best course of action was to catch them off guard, to confuse them. As the Africans pulled up to the warehouse, Saeed went into action, just like planned, as Jeff, El Babo, and I stood in the dark waiting. My boss wants to see you, we heard Saeed tell the Africans. You need to follow me to the office. They bought it. They're following Saeed in now. Babo radioed. They're wearing trench coats. Watch their hands. Sunlight streamed under the door as Saeed escorted the Africans into the warehouse. The door opened to the office we were silently standing in, and we watched as Saeed took a seat behind my desk. The Africans glanced at each other, unsure of what to do. One of them reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of money, which he placed on the table. Saeed grabbed the money and ripped it up. You think we're fucking stupid? He shouted, tossing the torn bills at them. You think we don't know this is a counterfeit? You try to steal from us? On cue, Jeff, El Babo, and I stepped forward and jammed their guns into the back of their heads. Nothing better than to kill a brother right before Martin Luther King Day, I shouted. So go ahead and do what you came here to do. The Africans put their arms in the air and began blubbering. We don't want no problems, Mine said. He's got money in his back pocket. No more your shit money, Saeed said, stepping on the desk. You trying to get us all busted? We want your weapons, I said, pulling on my guy's trench coat, reached down and placed them on the table. The Africans tried to face each other, but we pushed the guns harder into the back of their heads, making their effort in vain. You think we can't tell you're carrying? You guys really are some stupid bastards. Now unload before we do, I yelled. I think the trio kept hoping someone was going to come up with a quick idea, but neither swayed from the course. After a moment of hesitation, the Africans pulled their sawed-off shotguns from their coats, along with a pistol and 2 knives. This shit was real. Sunshine had just saved their lives. You fucking so much as show your face around here again, and I will blow it off. Are we clear? Clear. Clear. Jeff guys yelled. We held the guys for a minute, letting them whimper and beg for their release before we let them go. One wrong move and we shoot, I said, nudging my guy to walk forward. You come back to the spot or even attempt to do business with our fellow partners and we'll blow your heads off in your sleep. Understand? Yes, yes. We will never come back. We're sorry. Obabo's guy cried as he shook nervously. The Africans scrambled to their car, our guns still aimed at their heads, and peeled out of the lot. The three of us stood there grounded in position until surveillance radioed that they were officially off the lot and on the main road. Pennsylvania State Police apprehended their vehicle 5 miles from our warehouse, just as planned. The Africans were charged with attempted armed robbery, passing counterfeit money, and purchase of untaxed goods. It was fair to say we wouldn't be seeing those guys for a long time. Chapter 29, He's a Fucking Cop. On Wednesday, we pulled into our tactical meeting, which was held in the back parking lot of an abandoned grocery store, to find it full of cars from agencies across the board. With so many cases at stake, we had different units arriving every week. There was the FBI, who had uncovered several possible terrorist affiliates through our dealings, 8 of which were on the terrorist watch list. Others had ties linked to Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah, which brought the U.S. Army on board. Then there was the ATF, who were tracking our customers since they were all carrying, as well as the state police, who were helped with arrest, the narcotics unit, who were hopeful for a successful turnout with Sunshine, more PATB agents here to learn and study our case with Chin Lu and the U.S. attorney. And here we were, the quarterbacks of the case, and we couldn't even get to our own meetings. There were so many cars in the lot that we had to park a quarter mile down the road to street and walk up. Talk about a way to make someone stay humble. After the encounter with the Africans, Stant wasn't taking any chances. If you are all here to benefit, then you will need to help the operation, he told each agency that came on board. The small loft inside our warehouse became an alcove for extra surveillance equipment, agents and Army personnel, complete with scope rifles for our protection. By the time Chin arrived on Thursday, everything had been arranged, unbeknownst to him, and put into place. All morning, when customers arrived, the agents above our head would be as quiet as mice. The moment they would depart, the warehouse would spring alive with chatter, radio broadcasts, phones, faxes, and the pounding of computer keys. By the time Chin pulled onto the scene, I was ready for some peace and quiet. The week between it seemed so long, especially after all that happened, and having him here signified the beginning of the end of something. Long time no see, boys, Chin said as he stepped out of his car. He was dressed in white slacks, a blue dress shirt, and brown dress shoes. I thought you weren't allowed to wear white before Labor Day, I asked, referencing his slacks. I say, if you look good, you fuck the rules and wear what you like, Chin said, walking up to me and shaking my hand. How've you been? I've been thinking about our deal, actually. I'm hoping you brought me a sample. My guys aren't so sure your stamps are legit. You're not sure of my stamps, Chin laughed. You idiots didn't even know about the stamps you were selling. True, I shrugged off, but we still like a look. If they're good, we want to buy in. Not good, Lou smiled. The best in the country. Everybody in business knows who I am. Lou pulled a small Ziploc bag of stamps from his pocket. You tell me how good, he said, handing me the bag. Inside were 3 different stamps, one from New York State, another from Pennsylvania, and the other from New York City. I pulled out the Pennsylvania stamp and held it against an authentic stamp on a pack of Newports. I stared at this stamp for 5 minutes, unable to spot the difference. I called Nick over, trying to see if he could tell the difference, but as hard as he tried, he couldn't spot it either. Okay, I said, looking at Nick. I think you've got yourself a deal. Mr. Lou, what do we have to do to get started? How much you think you want? I guess our question for you would be, how much is too much? Lou smiled, shaking my hand. You boys might be smart business leaders after all. I'll give you numbers next week. Lou drove off, fully stocked with cigarettes, while we sent the stamps to the lab. In 7 days, Lou would be back, and we had to execute a plan. While Chin was in the works, Stanton approached me about another sale the ATF wanted me to explore. Sunshine, he said. They want to test out any gun connections she might have. What about the drug task force? They're aware and on board with it too. Let's go for it then, I said, automatically regretting the protective nature Sunshine had displayed to me. The ATF set me up with one of their guys. George, as he was called, was dressed in khaki pants, a cream dress shirt, a brown belt, matching shoes, and a military haircut to boot. I was unimpressed from the start. He looks like a fucking cop, I said during our meeting. No fucking way. I know how to look casual, the cop lookalike said. Trust me, I'll be much more relaxed than I am now. I didn't trust him. There are some things you just can't cover up and run from. And everything told me that George, disguised as a regular delinquent, was one of those somethings. Billy, I am a fan. I have wanted to work with you for some time. I promise I won't disappoint. I'm not scared of being disappointed, I said. I'm scared of being there when you get made for a cop. The ATF agents went back and forth, and eventually I reluctantly caved. There wasn't much I could do to change their minds. They wanted George on the case with me, and no matter how hard I fought, they were going to get what they wanted. Upon Sunshine's arrival, I let her know how scary the African situation was and how grateful our guys were for help. And you're right, my guys needed extra cover. You think you can help us? You know I can, baby. Let me see how much product I can get for you. Sunshine called me that afternoon with a meetup location in the Bronx. I have a new guy, I informed her. He's looking at purchasing some merchandise. I'm going to bring him, if that's all right with you. If he's okay with you, then he's okay with me, Sunshine said. No later than 10 a.m., though, Silver. The girls have a busy day tomorrow. It's Fleet Week. The next morning, George showed up wearing a yellow button-down shirt, crisp blue jeans, and black boots. What the fuck are you wearing? I yelled as he approached our van. You look like a fucking cop. I do not, he exclaimed. I'm casual. Listen, dude, I am not comfortable with what you're wearing. You're going to have to change. You know, I've been on the job for 15 years, and I've never had anyone around me so anal as you. We have a job to get done, so let's stop focus on what I'm wearing and go buy some weapons, shall we? I'm not getting in a fucking car with you like that. No way. Well, you're technically not allowed to purchase guns on your own. And we have a team of backup and surveillance already out there waiting for us to get the show on the road. I glared at George. Inside, I wanted to grab him by the throat, rip off every fucking button on his ugly yellow fucking shirt, and shove it down his throat. Instead, I paced a lot until I opted to get in the car and get the day over with. If he got made, that would be on his agency. There's no way I would vouch for him and risk my operation. We pulled into the back of a sketchy convenience store located in a high-crime area and parked closest to the exit so surveillance had a clean shot from the street. Sunshine pulled into the lot 20 minutes later, her security guard seated in the passenger seat as usual. As she approached the van, she took one look at George and furrowed her eyebrows at me. This is your guy? She questioned. Yep, I said, playing it cool. George, meet Sunshine. Sunshine, this is George. George shook her hand. Nice to meet you, he said. Sunshine pulled her hand back in disgust. He's a fucking cop, Silver. No, I said, shrugging her off. He's just an idiot. Thinks he can hustle guns down in Maryland. Maryland, Sunshine said, appalled. You trying to take guns to Maryland? Yes, I am, George said flatly. Sunshine looked back at me, cocking her neck. She was pissed. Silver Fox. Sunshine, what can I say? He's a fucking idiot, but he pays well. Get in the van so we can talk. Sunshine nodded to her security guard, who produced a black bag from the back seat. I'm not getting in, Sunshine stated. Not with him in the car. Come on, I said. He's not that bad. Silver, how many deals have you done with this guy? I sold him some stuff and he sold me some stuff. I'm telling you, he's a fucking cop, she said as the security guard tossed the black bag through my open window. I glimpsed into the bag to find 3 9mm automatics and 2 hand pistols. These are beautiful, Sunshine, I told her. You really are an asset for our team. George moved his body closer to mine and peeked in the bag. Then, like a moron, his mouth gave it all away. Can you get us some machine guns? Sunshine pulled back from the car, outraged. I fucking told you he was a cop, Silver, she shouted as she walked back to her car, the white envelope of cash I'd handed her sticking out of her back pocket. He's a fucking cop. Sunshine tore out of the parking lot before I could react. You think she can get machine guns? George asked, pulling the bag from my lap. No, I don't think she can get machine guns, asshole. You just blew my whole fucking cover. She knew you were a cop. You've been on the field for 15 fucking years, and you don't know enough not to ask a criminal for something in less than 5 fucking minutes of being introduced. You're an embarrassment to your whole fucking unit. George ignored me and radioed for Sunshine's takedown. Are you fucking serious? I yelled. That wasn't a fucking deal we signed. We're not done with Sunshine. She's the key in our drug operation right now. George ignored me and continued calling in the location. I grabbed my radio and yelled for everyone to stand down. You do not have approval to pull her over, I screamed. We have a direct order from the governor on this case. Everyone stand down. At the same time, I yelled into the radio. I pulled my phone out and dialed Stanton. He immediately contacted the head of the ATF, and within minutes, Sunshine was removed from a possible takedown, and George was out of my van. Somebody pick up the yellow-shirted motherfucker. I left him on the corner. I radioed in, satisfaction rolling all over me. The ATF lambasted me, claiming I'd ruined the case. But Stanton, the Drug Task Force, and every other agency in our lap backed me up. Stanton refused to go any deeper with the ATF, leaving them to launch their own investigation on Sunshine if they desired. But, try as they might, they were never able to get her back on board. As for Sunshine, I had no choice but to give her a little space. In the midst of the meeting, Lou had called requesting our presence at his warehouse in the morning. He wanted to show us his operation, so all buy-in questions we might have would be put to rest. Stanton, the FBI, the governor, and the U.S. attorney weren't willing to let this opportunity pass us by. So despite my exhaustion and mental drainage from the day, I had to prepare myself for the new task at hand. Therefore, Sunshine's dealing had to wait. Chapter 30. Sex Slave Trading. Despite 5 solid hours of sleep, Jeff and I arrived in Chinatown at 6 a.m., raring to go. Fitted with cameras and surveillance equipment, we pulled up, miraculously finding a spot in front of the warehouse on Catherine Street. The smell of fish immediately permeated my nose as we stepped out of the van. Ah, my boys. Breathe that in. It's the smell of fresh morning success for our fishermen, Chin said, walking out of a side alleyway to greet us. I looked at Jeff, who was holding his nose. Seriously, I said. What? I hate the smell of fish. You white boys are crazy. You never been to an open market before? Chin smiled. He was dressed in a nice pair of slacks and a crisp light blue dress shirt. Come inside with me. It smells better. Jeff and I followed Chin through a narrow alleyway to a side door painted black. Chin escorted us up a stairwell that was crammed with boxes. Morning delivery, he said. Once we reached the second floor, Chin stopped in front of an old steel door, which rolled up via tracks above our head. It made a loud noise that echoed throughout the warehouse. I counted 7 girls, all of whom had stopped what they were doing to watch us. These girls are my stalkers, Chin said, clapping his hands. Back to work, girls. All 7 quickly diverted their eyes from our presence and continued loading the empty boxes with cartons of cigarettes, which the back end of the warehouse was piled with. They arrived weekly from the port, Chin said, catching my stare. They come in with the fish. Nobody wants to check stinky boxes of fish, so they come through without a problem. Sounds like a job for you, Jeff, I teased. Chin led us through the stockroom and into the production end, which was separated by another large steel door on wheels. Again, the noise from the wheels made the 5 girls in the room stop what they were doing to look at us. I was surprised to discover that the women were working on rolling machines, identical with what Marlboro had in their factory. I made a point of walking around and analyzing the machines so my button camera could get a full profile while stopping in front of the serial number on the side. You like these? Chin smiled. Someone stole them last month from Philip Morris trucks. I have guys who watch them. The guys who deliver their machines work for us. We pay them guys to keep us informed of what they're getting into so we can do the same. It was fucking genius. Here were underground criminals working for the exact company who was spending millions of dollars to outsmart them. My operation is different than yours, Chin smiled as he led us out of the manufacturing point and through a garment area. We focus on the poor so no one notices. You mind explaining that a little, I said, as we passed through the heavily employed garment area and into a large kitchen where 2 elderly women were gutting fish. Jeff immediately plugged his nose again. Poor people don't complain about taste if it's cheap, Lou said. They just want the smokes. So we sell to owners in corner markets and on the street. The owner pays us for the cigarettes and then charges his customers the regular price. So he makes money from the tax and cigarette price in one. These people don't know any better or have anywhere else to go, so they continue to buy. Everyone's happy. Chin pointed to one of the elderly ladies. This is my mom. Chin's mom scrunched her nose in distaste and looked us up and down. That one is fat, she said, pointing to me. Shows he's greedy. Doesn't know when to stop. That's no good, son. His mother's bluntness struck me. Mom, Chin interjected. These two have lots of money, very successful. They're going to be our new partners. You can't trust them, she said, continue to point her finger at me. Fat people never trustworthy. They take more than they should. Not good for business. Chin shook his head, said something to his mother in Chinese, and directed us out of the room. Off the kitchen, Chin led us through another hallway, which was poorly lit. I tried to watch my steps and cover all the angles of the hall, but I kept thinking about how Chin's mother had just called me fat. The dim hallway led to Chin's office, which was set in the corner of the room, surrounded by tables and several workers, busy adhering fraudulent stamps onto cartons of cigarettes. I like to keep them in my eyesight at all times, Chin said, gesturing for us to take a seat in front of his desk. I don't like any tricky business here. I turned in my chair to get a closer look at the girl's process. You have a lot to learn, big man, Chin laughed. I teach you when you invest. Tell me what you need, I said, ready to make a deal. 5,000 for 5 cases. Lou, that's $1,000 a case, I laughed. You'll make double that when you sell them. Chin pulled out a roll of tax stamps from his desk drawer and tossed them to Jeff. The state only gives these to banks for cigarette companies, he stated. Today, I am that bank. Jeff and I examined a roll of stamps. No question, they were good. I ran my thumbnail against the stamp and attempted to peel or scratch it, but it didn't budge. Told you my shit was precise, Chin smiled. We got a prime factory here. I managed to get Chin down to $4,500 for 5 cases, which wasn't as significant as Stant would have liked, but it was something. I'll have delivery set for you on Thursday, Chin assured us. That was just enough time to wrap up his case, something the state Stanton I couldn't wait for. We hadn't had a day off in weeks or a big arrest to give us that high we needed. A closed case would do us good. By the time Chin arrived in pressed steel gray pants, a crisp white shirt, and tan shoes, every agency on board was in place, salivating over what this takedown was going to mean for their unit. Yet, just as we got close enough to taste the end, Chin dropped one more bombshell onto our lap. Billy, he said, gesturing for the guys to remove the product from his trunk. Long time no see. Come look at the beautiful items I brought you. I walked towards the trunk and inspected the case. Again, I couldn't spot a difference. Did I tell you or what? Chin smiled, happy with his delivery. You told us. These look great, Chin. Jeff has your payment all set. I gestured for him to follow Jeff, where our takedown will begin, but Chin remained in place. I have something else for you. What's that? Did you come into some new stamps? No, this better. I have a proposal for you and the guys. Even though every ounce of my body screamed to leave it be, my curious nature couldn't let it rest, so I let him talk. I know you have connections with Mafia, he said, putting his hands up to protest any argument from my side. It's okay. I work with Chinese Mafia. I never tell. His line seemed ironic since that's what he had just done. I need a boat, Chin stated seriously. I have an order of girls coming from China to America. I need help getting them here. My driver already has too many. What kind of girls? Family? No, not family. Girls to work. How many girls are we talking? For your boat? 16. They'll take care of your guys during the ride to entice them. They like girls, right? Chin, I said, lowering my voice. Are you asking me to bring sex slaves into the country? No, not all sex slaves. Some are clean, he stated matter-of-factly. But some are sex slaves. The dirty ones, yes. The clean ones we show off until we get a good price. I couldn't believe I was having this conversation. Chin, even if I could help you get these girls in the country, I'm not sure I want to. Human trafficking is a whole different level. We run cigarette scams for fuck's sakes. I wouldn't know the first thing about getting people in the United States. I take care of all that. You just provide the boat. I stared at Chin in disbelief. Billy, it's a lot of money for you and your guys. Buy you a better warehouse, Chin said, looking around our coveted spot in dismay. Let me talk to the guys and see what I can do, I said. I'll have an answer next time you come. Don't wait too long. Chinese girls get horny. Chin, you said they weren't all sex slaves, I yelled as he walked over to Jeff for payment. Only the ugly ones, he laughed as Jeff handed him the money. Clearly, he'd been told that a takedown would no longer be happening that day. The entire unit stood down per Stanton's request. Groans and several choice words flooded the warehouse. But it didn't matter. Stanton needed to dig into what Chin had just offered. The sex trade industry was huge, and the government was working overtime to try to crack down on it. Stan reached out to the trafficking agency and had 2 agents on board the next morning. I handed over Chin's details, his warehouse location, his gambling habits, and his current proposal. However, there was a political catch. The Attorney General and the governor were itching for a positive outcome on the counterfeit stamps, especially since it was taking thousands of dollars away from the state. So Chin's new turn was off limits for us. However, we agreed to help them with specific instructions like the routes Chin used, how he bypassed Border Patrol, and any insight we can get on the hundreds of boats and transportation routes other slave trade owners were using. And as for Chin's arrest, the trafficking agency couldn't touch him until after we closed our case. When Chin arrived at the warehouse the following week, 3 additional trafficking agents were positioned with our surveillance crew. The space had become so crowded that I began to feel as if I were crawling out of my skin. The background noise annoyed me. The people talked to me too much, and the casual laughter that would spring from the loft grated my spine. I find myself needing to escape the confines of my once comfy lounge chair vicinity for the fresh, crowd-free space outside its walls. "You're waiting for me," Chin said as he drove up to the warehouse. He was dressed leisurely compared to his usual get-up, so I used that to my bullshitting advantage. "Actually, I came out to see why you're dressed like such a slob. Khaki pants and a polo shirt, a bit casual for you, no? I've a busy day today. You understand, sometimes you have to get your hands dirty." "I hear that. Anything that I can assist with?" I inquired. "Not this one," he sighed. "You find boat?" "I believe I did." Chin's eyes widened. "You have a boat? You are in?" "I'm not in until you let me know everything this involves. If I don't like the details, I'm out." "Of course I give that to you," Chin said, a bit overly excited. "But I only know about the boat. We pick up and drop off for a price. I'll be with you." "You on the boat with me might break the deal," I joked. "You don't speak Chinese, asshole. How are you going to speak to girls? They're not going on a boat with hairy white men in dirty pants." "Ah, you got me there," I smiled. "How long are we talking? Am I on the boat with you then?" "2 days," he said. "They pay us $3,000 per girl." "That seems a little low. You say you have 16 girls? You have to pay for the boat, gas, and food to feed them. We'll need more money." "Billy, these are not good guys," Chin stated. "We are only the transportation. You don't want problems with them. They will kill you." "You leave those problems to me," I said. "My guys and I can handle them. Now, what's the route like?" Chin explained that our job was to pick the women up in the Bahamas and transport them to the Florida Keys. "How do the girls get to the Bahamas in the first place?" I inquired. "Through Cuba. I have another guy who sets that up. He calls me when he has the girls and then calls me when the girls are secure and ready for pickup." "Wait a minute," I interjected. "Do we have to share our money with these guys too?" "No," Chin stated. "He's already taken care of." "I don't know, Chin. This seems like an awful lot of work." "It's a side job, Billy," Chin said. "It's a little extra in your pocket." "My interest is going down, Chin." "Billy, it's easy job. Pick up in Bahamas and drop off in Florida Keys. It's like a vacation. You do good, and I'll bring you on the Mexico job. That one is good money." "You're transporting girls from Mexico too?" I asked. "Just Chinese girls. We have a lot of them." I played aloof and turned to talk to Jeff and the guys about warehouse issues, allowing Chin to try to pull me back in. "This is an unbelievable opportunity, Billy. Lots of money for you." "I'm not too worried about the money right now, Chin. I thought our side business was doing pretty well." "No, no, Billy," Chin said, putting his hands up. "Our business is doing great. This is just another side business to work together. Kidnapping women and dragging them to America. I can't say that's a business my partners and I want to be a part of." "No kidnapping," Chin explained. "They come on their own. They want to come to America for a better life. Their parents give them to us for money. They come willingly." "That I believe we're in disagreement on, Chin." "Okay, Billy, what would you want to make this happen?" "I would need detailed maps of where my boat would be loading and dropping off, port names and locations, and the name of the guy we're picking the girls up from." "I can't do that. He's very secretive." "Then I can't help you," I said, shrugging my shoulders. "I'm not driving across waters to be surprised by a man I don't know. I want to do my own research first. Make sure this guy isn't a cop or doesn't pull any surprises." Chin thought about it for a minute and reluctantly agreed. "How soon can you get your crew together?" he asked. "As soon as you can provide me with the things I need." "Okay, I come back in 2 days. What kind of boat you got?" The funny thing was, in all our planning and arrangement, we never discussed boat details. I didn't have the slightest boat knowledge, so I flew by the seat of my pants per usual. A 16-footer. 16? What do you mean 16? Chin screamed. You can't transport people in a 16-foot boat. We all die. The boat will sink. Chin, I'm just testing you, I laughed. I've got a 23-footer. Chin yelled in Chinese and threw his arms and hands all over. By the looks of his red face, the 23-foot boat wasn't exactly cutting it either. Chin, relax. I have a good boat. You bring me what I asked for, and I'll show you the boat. Chin stood in place, his chest still heaving. What? It was a joke, I laughed. It was almost as funny as your money offer. You're a funny man, Chin said flatly. Almost gave me the heart attack. Heart attack or not, I'm not picking your skinny ass up off my warehouse floor, I teased. Now get the fuck out of here before our next appointment comes in. Okay, I'll have this shit in 2 days. In return, you show me boat. Chin, if that shit isn't highlighted with everything I asked for, don't bother bringing it. I ain't stepping foot on any boat with you unless I know all the details up front. Any funny shit in a boat, and I'll turn around, so make sure you cover all your bases. I can do that for you, Billy. You'll see. No funny shit, just more money. Chin slid into his car with a wide grin on his face as I stepped away with a big sigh of relief. Who the fuck knew there were so many boat sizes? The immigration office was ecstatic over my work. They praised me on my diligence and coyness, and had guys lining up to work the case. However, while those details were being sorted out between outside agencies, our agency was busy trying to close our case. You see, even though we'd make the deal that Chin was off limits, there's a sticky line that allows greed to slip in. Each agency begins to see the numbers and press that would come from an operation of this sort, and they begin to quietly justify why their case is more important than the others. So, the chance of someone stepping in and jeopardizing our operation suddenly becomes very real. Therefore, our team made a secret plan to take Chin down the moment he handed over the paperwork. It would be another weekend that I wouldn't be returning home.
Making it out alive was only half the battle. Staying one step ahead was the other. With darker secrets exposed and powerful enemies lurking, the danger was far from over. There was no backing out now. Stick around. The next moves will be the most dangerous yet.